Sharon again, as your guest, because I don't have anyone else than her. So she's the one who will always come up to me. I'm like, okay, let's do that. So today we're going to talk about the Saudi Arabian economy in general. We're not going to tire you. We're not going to, get into details because it's not a lecture. It's just an overview. So we want to touch on things such as the interest rates, such as the private sector, such as the participation of Saudi Arabians in the private sector, and things related to those. Well, not that detailed, as we don't have time for all those things. So the first thing that I feel like we should touch on is the economic reforms in like domestically, and also the privatization and also the liberalization. So I know we talked a lot about this, but what do you think about its privatization since 2010?
Well, I think it's a good move. I think as well, on top of privatizing these businesses, they should really work on that other thing you said, publicly listing those companies so that they can increase the number of people, local ones, who actually own parts of businesses, as opposed to international businesses active in the country, which would in fact help with them relying so much on their loans to finance their ventures, which may be problematic in the future, near future too. So yeah, I think what should happen is, as well as privatizing these businesses, should also be open, listed for their shares to be sold.
Okay, so I want to also talk about the Saudi stock market, because I mean, if they stabilize it and if they kind of get it bigger, that they will have a better system of financing their non-sector oil. Non-sector oil, what did I just say? Non-oil sector. So what do you think about the way they encourage and support the new companies on their stock market, the Saudi Arabian stock market, like the domestic one?
Well, I think it would be a very good idea for them to expand it to begin with, even with oil-related companies to begin with, on top of non-oil ones, because it would be a good idea to begin with oil-related businesses in the first place, because another point you made about low interest rates, that be for religious reasons or not, has apparently led these companies to rely too heavily on loan, which is highly risky for them, depending on how much they rely on it. But in general, there's very little equity going into the businesses and a lot of loan, which means that even in their business goes below ideal, they would have to pay it back, and also with interest, whereas you don't have to do that with your equity money. So the consistently low interest rates creates that problem, especially in the oil sector, because it's lately less stable than usual, even, and it's they've been performing worse than they had in the near past lately, and this leads to this big problem of not being able to pay back the debt they've taken. And because in good times, when business is going well, it may be a good idea to rely heavily on loans instead of equity. But in times like this, when it's not at all satisfying the returns, then it creates a huge problem for these companies. So one way to avoid that would be to list these companies publicly, so that and internally as well, instead of internationally, to be able to raise that capital without it being as risky in oil-related sectors and in non-oil sectors, it's generally a good idea to expand them, as right now it's not a very big part of their economy, and that puts this very risky situation in the oil sector in the spotlight. There isn't any other side of the economy that could save them overall if oil goes down.
I mean, it's obvious that like how can I say, their GDP is mainly made of oil. I mean, to I guess 40, to the extent of 40%. It's not a big deal itself, but when you think about the export revenue and the fiscal revenue, like the oil can play a vital role as high as 75%, something like that. So I feel like, yeah, they should rely on other sectors as well, since they will run out of oil, and given in like really low interest rates to companies that are new, that are not so certain about what they're doing. Yeah, it sounds risky, obviously, but they do that because of Islamic reasons. I mean, yeah, I get it. We do have reasons for that religiously. But what if your economy collapses down? You got to think about that as well. So, here again, we have talked so long about this, but I want to talk about again the private market-based activities in the economy in order to create the new capital market. What do you think about the private market-based activities in general, not the liberalization, or low zero? Like we are not focused on like here. The question is just the market-based activities on privatization, not interest rates. So what do you think about the privatization itself?
Oh, I think it would be a good idea, since again, it's in a connected fashion. The government spending mostly is a result of their oil revenues, which creates a problem of the whole economy.
You can just say that it will, like, the privatization will help them to have a more dynamic capital market. Therefore, they can create or withdraw their already existing capital market, but that are held abroad. So you can just say that the dynamic economy, the dynamic capital market can help.
Yeah, I also yes, that, and it would make it much safer.
Yeah.
In a time of crisis.
Because they like your capital resources are being held abroad, but like they're no longer in the country, so you gotta be smart about this as well, as they're no longer in your soils. This is your favorite one, I know that. What do you think about the equity financing, or at least the intention of Saudi Arabia to have an equity?
Oh my God, it's a really good idea for them at the moment, with how they're performing, and again, mostly oil-based based companies, but also in the future when they expand other ones, if they go that way. It would be beneficial to them, as right now the way they're financing their businesses is extremely risky and unnecessarily so, and especially as we can see clearly today in times like this, it creates a huge problem for them, which may also be harder to give up on, because when things are going good, it kind of makes it go even better in a way. But then as soon as things get below average, I want to say, it goes down really fast the way it is right now. So I think that should be one of the main focuses of fixing things for the future.
And what do you think about the institutional investment and the way to attract that?
The way to attract that? I mean, in the part about financing their businesses more equity, kind of makes that side of things a bit harder than normal, with the rising interest rates to begin with. However, I think it's manageable to raise them without discouraging that kind of investment.
I mean, because the government seems like like the next Russia, like as powerful as Russia. Many people rely on the government itself rather than private companies that can also do the same job for the government itself. And I feel like this perception kind of it was like kind of created between 1970s, 1980s, because they found petrol. Now they're rich. Perhaps this encourages the people, the government to rely on what they naturally have, but like we now see that they're trying to manufacture business with the blessing that they are given to by God, which is petrol. But still, as they try to do Islamic financing, even their intention to create businesses, since they do have the chance and the opportunity to do so, this doesn't seem healthy. As like I said, they keep thinking about the Islamic financing like zero interest rates, low interest rates, but it makes people think that I don't even have to have the money to open a company or get in business, as I can pay credits at such low interest rates. So I don't have the money to open anything, but like I can do anything I want with the money that I don't even own. And here's the issue. We're talking about the equity financing. Equity financing is what you actually own, not what you seem to have on for now and later have to pay, borrow that money. But people think of the borrowed money as if it is their actual money, as if that borrowed money belongs to them, which actually does not. And we see that obviously present in Saudi Arabia. I feel like, I mean, at least in this case, they have to stop thinking about the Islamic financing as really affects people's mindset to think that the money is equal to what I actually own, because like this people think in a different way. The perception is not being done in the right way it should be. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a really big failure in my opinion. Not last, but here's another thing. It's not the least. It's I will come here. Okay, so overall, what do you think about the conversion from public to private program? And also, what do you think about the behavior of the international capital and Saudi capital and in Saudi Arabia in general?
So I think the privatization part is generally a positive, as it would make it a much more stable place to conduct business in. However, even the parts that stay public should, I think, be less reliant on oil if possible at all. Which would also make things easier on the private side, because then you have this government that performs well and is more reliable, and that would help both sides of things. And about Saudi versus international investment part, well, international investment is beneficial to them, in my opinion. However, they already are performing well with that, and they don't need to, maybe they should work on maintaining it, but getting more of it shouldn't be the main focus right now, in my opinion. But otherwise, to help with the privatization part as well, to be able to attract actual Saudi capital from within should be a bigger goal at the moment.
What do you think about the limitation of the resource finance? Like, do you think that diversifying it will be much better for people, as keeping it limited will kind of low-key force people to rely on the government guarantees, including the international capitals as well? Like, it also motivates, or at least tells the international capital to, hey, you have to rely on the government guarantees. You don't have anything else Like we don't have anyone else who will give you different kinds of guarantees. So you've got to rely on our government. Would you think that it will be better to diversify what we have or keep on with what we have?
I think diversifying would be the way to go in order to, first of all, make it easier to conduct the same amount of or kind of business as is today. And also to be able to, make things safer, that whole part about getting into non-oil sectors and expanding them. And diversification would definitely help with that.
Especially for the local capital to,
Mm-hmm.
grow bigger.
Get more involved, yes.
We need our citizens to grow bigger as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say that the capital market, like the type of the capital market that Saudi Arabia needs, is something something diversified, something not dependent at all, especially on the government and on what we have in their soils, and also its liquidity.
Yes, that was totally helpful. And also, to be fair, the kind of investment they get from on an international base, yes, all those would make it much more reliable and so increase that. However, people already still do it, even though they're aware of the lack of some very important qualities. However, I think in the attracting locals into these businesses part, I think that would be very, very helpful to get that started to begin with, and also keep it going in the early stages.
So it's obvious that, like, to conclude all we talked about, all the things that we were, it's obvious that we have to, not we, but the Saudi Arabia must create education and economic reforms to kind of create that consciousness that is needed Saudi Arabians, because we see, like, we observe, like anyone can observe, I can observe, you can observe, anyone on the street can observe the fact that Saudi Arabians really rely on the government and don't really give on what is going on, especially in the private sector, that foreigners are community that participates. So therefore, we see that the activity of the natives is not really to the extent of which anyone would want, as Saudi Arabia has its people, not the foreigners. Like at the end of the day, they will rely on their government, and the government will rely on their citizens. So therefore, I feel like there must be reform, an education reform that will create this consciousness for Arabians. And also, we should also talk about the authorities' responsibilities. And I feel like these responsibilities must be done in a fast way and in an actual way, not like in the words, but like also in actions. Also the speed of the implementations. Like we do see that Saudi Arabia has a project till 2030, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, their project sounds nice. It kind of says that I'll provide a non-oil sector in the future that will be as good as the oil sector. But the speed of the implementation of the project that they claim to, it doesn't sound fast enough, because we don't have much time for Saudi Arabia to accomplish that. And if they cannot achieve what they want by 2030, then what's going to happen? So I feel like the three main things are the speed of the implementation of what they're intended to do, or what they are thinking about, or what they have been thinking about, and also the mindset, the consciousness of Saudi Arabian citizens and their participation in the private sector, despite the fact that private sector has been really good at growing or helping to grow the Saudi Arabia economy. I feel like there's not much of Saudi Arabian in the sector. Like that, the privatization worked really good for the economic growth, but does Saudi Arabian community really help the economic growth to continue? I feel like it's the foreigners who do that. So I feel like we have to make them realize that this growth is relied on the private sector. Therefore, you should also participate in this private sector. as you are the state of this country. And also, what else? The regulatory responsibility of the authority. And also, it's my personal opinion, but I think that you would also agree on that. The Islamic financing, especially on interest rate, because it's also a fact that affects the mindset, the consciousness of Saudi Arabian citizens. So yeah, those are my comments on what we talked about and what is going on in Saudi Arabia, and I feel like you will say some similar things to what I said. No.
Well, all I want to say about the speed of implementation would be, better late than never. To be fair, through what we've going through in the past couple of years, and very likely into the future for a while too. It was a bit late for that with the problems we've discussed. It was Saudi Arabia was caught not very well prepared for something like that, and it hurt them. However, we do realize that it's gonna happen again very likely. So and the thing to do right now would be to prepare well for the next time this becomes an issue.
Yeah,
so
a lot,
even if it's slow, as long as there's progress, I think it's something. However, just gotta keep going and definitely not diverge from that path. And obviously, accelerating it could help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, they started from somewhere else. Like they realized that something, but like because they don't have much time and they will probably run out of oil very soon. They have to fast because like this is a matter of life for them as they run out of that. I mean, realizing that they have to do something is really important, especially for Turkey as well. Not to talk about Turkey, Turkey, at least Saudi Arabia realized that they have to do something, which is not even found in our country. So comparing that and thinking about the comparison between Saudi Arabia and Turkey, I feel like, they're better than us for now. But still, for them, just talking about them, just thinking about them, it feels like they need to be fast. Like when we compare two countries, which will be an international way of interpretation, they're ahead of us. But like, still, talking about them, it's not enough for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it, I guess.
No, on that one. It was just sad but right.
Yeah, we involved Turkey out of nothing, actually. It was just interpretation. So okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For again being involved in my project. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness on my project.
Oh, thank you for having me. I actually learned quite a lot myself.
Yeah, it's like a culture. It was like a culture project, like not economics. Like we talked. We talked about economics. Yeah, we talked about economics. But like those economics are related to an economy of a country. So it was a cultural, educational project.
Yes, definitely.
So yeah.